important side story to all of this is something from the New York Post today saying that missing from these Twitter files that were dropped really details the specific warnings that the FBI made to Twitter about a Russian hack and leak operation involving Hunter Biden. Now, this occurred during weekly meetings with top Twitter executives in the days and the weeks before the Post published that laptop story. Now, just last week, an FBI supervisory special agent named Elvis Chan testified under oath that he organized weekly meetings with Twitter and Facebook in San Francisco in the run-up to the 2020 presidential election. Now, Chan's testimony comes as part of a lawsuit brought by Republican attorneys general against the Biden administration, and the FBI's Chan is one of 46 defendants named in the AG's lawsuit.
All right, let's bring in now Texas Congressman Pete Sessions. He's a member of the House Finance and Oversight Committees. Congressman, great to have you with us.
Thank you very much, John.
I know, talking with the soon-to-be chairman of your committee, the Oversight Committee, James Comer, that this is going to be one of those areas of interest for you. And we specifically wanted to ask you about what the New York Post is reporting about the FBI going to visit these social media platforms. We'd previously seen Mark Zuckerberg talk about this in an appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast. In terms of the investigation powers Congress has, where do you see this trail leading, and how do you plan to pursue it?
Well, it appears as though that the Department of Justice was used as a wholly owned subsidiary by the Democratic National Committee. The DNC, or the White House, used not just the Department of Justice, but evidently they had sway over Twitter. And we already know they had sway over the New York Times, the Washington Post, and other broadcast corporations. We're now learning that there are wholly developed issues that would take place where they would decide out of the White House or out of the DCCC what they wanted, and then they simply had a chain of custody that would go to the Department of Justice to deliver the message. This is the same thing we had that happened with Hillary Clinton, and that information that it would go with stories that they would wish to have planted. We are seeing, I think, in the beginning of these companies now deciding and knowing that they are going to be on the front page of not only our investigation, but will be getting subpoenas from us for data and information. It's a whole lot easier for them to do as Elon Musk is now, and that is to publicly announce the things which they knew at the time that they done wrong, and it will certainly save the pain later, because as these events take place, as investigators, as members dig into this, there will be blockbuster headlines at these not only banks, but also these companies that at the behest of the Department of Justice made political decisions. This is one of the reasons why my father was fired as FBI director by Bill Clinton and Janet Reno. It goes right back to he was not doing bidding that they wished the FBI to do. And this is going to be a very interesting revelation where the Department of Justice finds themselves doing political work against the laws of this country, using law enforcement.
What about, may I ask you, Congressman, about the people inside Twitter? Now that it's all there in black and white, you know, it doesn't seem like we have to connect any dots. People like Vijaya Gadde, when they're, you know, censoring celebrities or people just commenting, what should happen to those involved at Twitter who were censoring people? It seems like because they felt like it or because a political party asked them to.
Well, I think you know the answer to that. And that is, many times what they've done is wrong. But when an investigator comes and speaks to them, they will then commit perjury. If they are not forthright and tells the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, they will be then up on other actual federal charges of trying to hide what they have done. So this is going to be a long story, but we're seeing and encouraging people who've been a part of this to publicly announce it now, provide the documents, give them to the committee. You saw Kevin McCarthy the other day announce to the January 6th committee, you cannot take any records that are expected to be held, and you've got to keep those. Republicans are just as sharp, and we'll get to the bottom of this, but we do know that there are what I believe to be leads that come back to the Democratic Party, perhaps to the White House, but at least to the Democrat National Committee of offering the advice about how to
and as
protect.
Congressman, as for Vijay Ghati's her role, I mean, this would fly in the face of everything that Section 230 provides for these companies. That protection, you know, like initially was devised as if I'm planning a bank robbery on the telephone, it's not the telephone's responsibility to enforce that, but they are enforcing. They are platforms, so that will be a whole other conversation. Before we wrap up with you, I did want to ask you about Donald Trump's response to the release of these Twitter files. He seemed to get pretty emotional about it, saying, quote, "A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution." So Bianca and I were kind of saying, you know, President Trump, whether it was on Twitter or here on Truth, he has a tend to kind of truth out or tweet out his emotions.
Yes.
Was this just an emotional response, or do you actually believe that he's calling for, like, fundamental changes to our Constitution? Because I would imagine if that were the case, you would disagree with him.
No, I don't think he is. And while I don't know what President Trump intended, but what I do know is that the rule of law, and he sometimes, I think, uses the Constitution and laws in similar contexts. The rule of law was violated, and we are now learning. And I think it's important to know that the president has been the effort by many of these people for a long time, including official branches of government in his own administration. So I would
do know one
suggest
thing,
that
Congressman, about President Biden or President Trump's social media usage. Nobody has the ability to cause the entire media world and everyone in Washington, D.C. to parse every single word in a tweet or truth or whatever it may be, like Donald Trump.
Yep.
Still happening.
Well, there's truth to that. But what I would suggest is hold your horses. Let's give it a chance, and let's let the case come forward and tell that truth and statement.
Yeah. All right. Great to see you, Congressman Pete Sessions from Texas. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Congressman.